Well, hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin. This is Rapid Fire episode 61, and a few non-wrestling related topics I'm going to talk about here. I really appreciate you guys for supporting me, so I hope you guys will continue to support me after this fairly controversial show that I may end up doing. I will try to be as fair and impartial as I possibly can, but I do get fired up about this stuff, so just warn you, this might get a little bit angry. The Roseanne reboot has been canceled by ABC after an extremely racist tweet that Roseanne sent out, one of many, but this one I don't know why this was the one that broke the camel's back, so to speak, and caused the show to be canceled, because she's sent out shit like this before. People say she's a comedian, she was just trying to make a joke. No, there's a difference between being racist and being a comedian. I'm not a comedian, but I like to crack jokes, but I crack jokes. I also used to be racist. I also used to be homophobic. I did a show about it on my Assorted playlist if you want to check it out. Or ask and I'll put it in the description. In fact, I might just put it here at the end, in the end title and stuff like that, and just that way you guys can check that out. But here's the whole point. This is what I don't understand about people. Why in the world would anyone want to defend Roseanne Barr or say they're going to boycott ABC because of this? She's always been this way. It's been more amplified since Trump got into office, as it has with a lot of celebrities and a lot of people in the news and stuff like that, especially Fox News. The real fake news. Sorry, Fox News isn't a credible news source. They aren't. They're full of a bunch of idiots. Well, there's a few people that actually have a brain on there, that work there, that want to try and fight the system, which is great. But I will say this much. I feel bad for the crew and the cast that lost their jobs because of Roseanne Barr's idiocy and her complete lack of empathy for anybody that isn't white, as if, she's in any position to judge anyone's looks with how she looks. Roseanne to me has not been funny in about 20 plus years. Now, the original series was actually pretty fantastic for a few seasons. It limped along like all sitcoms do after a while. There are some rare exceptions where shows actually stay constantly hot and really, really good for a number of years. MASH is one of them. I would say Cheers. I would say Frasier. I would say stuff like that stays pretty good. And Roseanne, the original Roseanne show stayed pretty constant for a few years. Then you had the casting changes and stuff like that. It eventually got canceled. Okay, the reboot, not a bad idea at all. Even with Roseanne's views, because it got a ton of big ratings. An ABC saw ratings, saw money. They went for it. I don't blame them for that. I do blame them for the fact that they thought this wasn't going to blow up in their face, because Roseanne has clearly been unhinged since well before this reboot happened. But, again, feel bad for the cast and crew. Hopefully they came back with good intentions. Hopefully they can find some great work and do well and everything. And ABC News has egg on their face from this, because they shouldn't have done this knowing how Roseanne acts. But those that are saying they're going to boycott ABC, bullshit. Why? If you don't, okay, they canceled one damn show and you're going to boycott ABC? Okay, we can have our own, views on shows like The View, which I've always hated. I've always hated the show. I've never cared for it one bit. I found it to be loud and obnoxious. I just have. It doesn't matter who the cast members are on there. But there are people that say, no, you let The View on there, you let this kind of stuff. There's been hypocrisy in TV and cable companies for years, so that's nothing goddamn new. All right, Fox canceled Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Thankfully, NBC picked it up, and I say thankfully for the fans of the show. I never watched one episode. But shows get canceled all the damn time. All that stuff happens. Guys, you need to realize that there are consequences of free speech. Free speech is not a human shield. It's not to shield. Do we have the right to speak our minds? Yes. People have the right to dress up as Nazis and go out in public, like in Seattle, where that one guy got punched out, and that was brilliant. Look, you guys can feel however you want about violence, but if somebody's going to be that insightful and they get punched, that incite that much, and I don't mean insightful like deep thinking, but if they're going to incite that much anger and not expect repercussions, then they're fools. It was not okay to be a Nazi back when it happened. It's not okay to be a Nazi now. I don't understand why anybody would agree with those views, and if you agree with those views, you're a scumbag. Just plain and simple. You're a goddamn scumbag. There's no defending it. It's fine to study history, but the important thing about history is to study it and learn from it. Not say, oh, hey, this worked out so damn well in the 40s, let's do it now. No, that's not a good idea. I don't know why racism is still such a big issue when it shouldn't be. Now, I mean, okay, and I know I probably opened myself up to a flood of comments there, and I'm not saying that racism shouldn't be a big issue. It should be, because unfortunately people are being dumb and judging people based on solely on their appearance and not even trying to judge them based on their character at all. It's one thing to make jokes. I make jokes with friends of mine of all ethnicities, and they make jokes about me, white jokes about me. It happens. That kind of stuff happens. I also know the limits and that kind of stuff, but I know as far as humor, what the difference between humor is and what the difference between racism is. Again, I used to be extremely racist and homophobic. And I'm going to mention that in videos like this, because I want to drive the point home that I don't like change. I don't like change. I don't like changing my jobs very much because I like routines. I don't like changing eating habits that much, even though I've had to some. I don't like changing, times that I sleep. I'm resistant to change. A lot of humans are resistant to change. But the thing is I realized very early on in my teens that if I didn't change how I was going to get my ass kicked more than I already had, and I deserved it. I deserved every bit of backlash that I got for being racist and homophobic. Had it not been for, and check out the video, by the way, for the full description, had it not been for one incident that, that got my attention and made me realize, wait, what the fuck am I doing? I probably wouldn't be doing these videos. Some of you would be happy about that because, well, we don't have to listen to that loudmouth, ridiculous guy. But you guys are trolls. The cool people would be disappointed by that. I'd be disappointed by that. My parents would be disappointed by that. I changed how I viewed people. Yes, okay, I still make jokes. But humor can be part of free speech. But having free speech does not exempt you from, does not make you exempt from getting fired from your job if you decide to be the way Roseanne Barr was. If you decide to commit a crime, whether you think it's innocent or not, or whether you take action, and you're like that lawyer that was in New York, I believe, that went on that extremely, anti-Hispanic rant. And, check that shit out if you don't know what I'm talking about. The one that got trolled hard for being that way, and deservedly so, and then said he wasn't racist. Those kind of actions have consequences. So I want to hear from people. And you don't have to put them on YouTube if you don't want. If we can DM each other on Twitter, let me know in DM if you are racist, if you are homophobic, or if you used to be. If you're unsure if you are, if you have certain views that you want to change, if you feel that you're hateful towards people, different races, if you are hateful towards people of the LGBT community, and you want to change, ask for help. Go to outreach groups. Ask people who are gay, who are lesbians, gay, bi, trans. Ask them and get educated on this stuff. Search the internet, but especially talk to people. If we start talking to each other more, we can actually come to some kind of common ground on this stuff. Now, yes, I've gone off on anti-Trump rants, anti-Trump supporting rants, anti-Trump supporting celebrity rants. The whole point is I've gone off on a lot of anti-Trump rants. On this video, I did a couple shows, Are You Happy Now? And yeah, you'll find out about those if you want to go back and search. I won't probably be revising that series anytime soon or whatever, unless it really calls for it, because I'm trying to be a little calmer and use my anger more towards wrestling, the real issues. But here's the thing. I want to try and understand what people... I've said in the past, I don't even want to talk to you guys if you support Trump. But here's the serious thing. Especially if we do talk. If we do talk on Twitter, or if we do talk on here, and you support Trump. I would love to know why. I'm not saying I'm going to try to change your mind, and sure as fuck don't try to change my mind. But I would love to know why you guys do, and why you guys think after all this time that he's still worth supporting when he has shown that he doesn't really care for the American people. In my personal opinion. You guys see something different? I'd love to hear it. I would actually love to hear it if you present it reasonably. It's the same way, instead of me just shouting at you, present it reasonably, and maybe I'll listen. But with Roseanne, she deserved to have her show canceled. Feel bad for the cast and crew that actually came back with good intentions. I don't feel bad for Roseanne. Any bit of karma she gets from today on down is her own doing, unless she wants to change. And even if she wants to change, this will probably haunt her for how many ever years she lives. Because if you don't want to change, and you don't want to change with the times and realize, not just use the cliche as 2018, because you said that back in 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all the way to whatever. We need to stop judging people solely based on their color. Just end the racism. Somehow end racism. Seriously. We need to end racism. We need to end homophobia. We need to be better as a society. We really need to be better as a society. We need to look at what Roseanne did and say, we're not going to do that bullshit. We're not even going to agree with that bullshit. We're going to think for ourselves. Seriously, just start thinking for yourselves and get educated on these topics. Myself included, I had to get educated on these topics years and years ago when the internet was in its goddamn infancy. If I had had access to all the material now, and I was a teenager, I'd be ridiculous because I wouldn't have nearly the following on my channel that I do because I lived through the Monday Night Wars and stuff. But I would have been educated a whole lot quicker and probably wouldn't have been racist, homophobic into my teens. But that's enough of that. So let's move on to the whole thing about how the NFL is going to fine players if they kneel during the anthem. Now, I had to come around on this topic. Personally, I wasn't a fan when Colin Kaepernick did it until I found out who helped him understand the way to do it, and was consulted by, I believe, somebody in the military. It was an Army veteran, if I remember right. It might even been a former Marine. Forgive me if I don't remember the exact details, but I know some member of the armed forces consulted with him and said, "Says sitting, kneel." Now, personally, football opinion, aside, because I feel Colin Kaepernick didn't live up to that contract that the Niners gave him, the big contract. And yeah, they didn't use the money properly to give him an O-line and whatever. But anyway, he did start a movement. And we'll give him credit for that. Now, he had some missteps in the beginning, but he has done his best to rectify those and do the right things and show that he actually does care. And there's the whole thing where there were players that were white that were kneeling during the anthem. I just want to say this much. The NFL's doing this basically because, and this is my honest opinion, because even though Trump's tried the whole thing, deflection with the NFL, Trump's mad at the NFL because they succeeded and the USFL didn't. But the league officials, and especially the commissioner, are doing this because their fan base is mad. If you lose fans that are upset because black players are protesting police brutality and violence against people of color, well, that's just too damn bad. That's not the fan base you need to target anyway, because I think they're the ones with head injuries, not the players on the goddamn field. I think the players on the goddamn field actually have more education than a bunch of these dumb fucks that think these people shouldn't be kneeling for the anthem. They should find a different way to protest. Meaning that they should find a way to protest that I don't have to see. Now, the NFL did say that if any players want to stay in the back while the national anthem's played, then that's fine. Personally, I think that the players should be allowed to kneel. And I had to come around on this, because there were a number of years ago where I didn't agree with this. And I found it disrespectful, but I think my problem was mainly the coverage of it. There's a lot to dissect with this. A lot to dissect with this issue. And issues need to be addressed. Why they're protesting. Let's find out the reasons why they're protesting. We know a good amount of reasons why. But if we find out the reasons, going back to the whole thing about getting educated. The players doing these outreach programs with the youth and stuff like that, and with, NAA. I believe NAACP, but the whole point is they're doing a lot of stuff with race relations. And is the league trying? I'm sure the league is trying. I'm sure that there are people in the front offices of all these teams that actually want these issues to be addressed. But yeah, it's a whole thing. It just boils down to basically a bunch of white people, a bunch of old white guys holding down black players. That's a simplified version of it. There's a lot to dissect with this whole anthem protest thing. Whether I personally agree with it or not, they're not launching attacks against people. They're not pissing on the flag, shitting on the flag. They're not flipping off the flag. They're not doing a whole lot of that. Or that I've seen at least. The antics outside of the league, sure, by some players, sure aren't exactly painting the best thing of the league, but that has nothing to do with the anthem protests. if they are doing this to raise awareness, that's the thing, it's making people uncomfortable. And hate to say it, it probably should be making people uncomfortable. I did a Super Bowl 50 review. It was like back when the thing happened. And it's not the best audio, by the way. I apologize because I was sick at the time. If you do go back and watch it, I was on Ustream. But I did criticize Beyonce's performance, and I had my reasons for it. My personal thing is I really think the performance was that good, and I thought that it was weird that somebody was promoting police brutality while they had a whole bunch of police with them. But at the same time, now I'm not the biggest fan of Beyonce, and I mean, I can see the subscriber button falling right there. But the message of it, I get. I do get that. I'm trying to come around on this stuff. Because the anthem protests are no joke. Things need to change. People need to stop being so afraid of the police. The police need to stop being so afraid of others. The police are here to serve and protect. But the police are also human. And that's something that people need to recognize. The police need to recognize that everybody is different. That not everybody is a criminal. They do need to approach a situation ready to strike just in case. And they are trained. And I talked to a few cops. They are trained to a lot of times shoot first, ask questions later. And unfortunately, in a life or death situation, that's going to happen. But also, there needs to be better education on how to not commit crimes. Outreach programs for youth and things like that in schools. We need more funding in school. And this is not going to get too preachy, but we need more funding in schools. We need to allocate more funds to help youth, whether they're troubled or not, so they don't become troubled. So this kind of stuff is stopped at a lower level so it doesn't get worse as people get older. If they come from a broken home, they get fixed in school, they get put back together, and they get sent out to society to do some great things. Do low-level things or great things. Whatever. But there's a way to fix this stuff. But it's not easy. It can happen, though. So also, another race-related thing, and I'm sorry, guys, I know this is a bit of a bit heavy. But something I didn't talk about was, just briefly, about the royal wedding. There are people that were upset because Meghan Markle, at least I believe that's how you pronounced her name, a woman of color, married Prince Harry, who's white and British. And there were people that were all trying to make it about race relations, and I'm sure there were people in Britain that were upset about it. But there were people here in the U.S. who were upset about it. One thing, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't care about the royal family. I don't give two shits. If it turns out she's doing it for money and doing it for fame, whatever, we can shame her for it. And we should. If it turns out that Harry turns out to be abusive, if it turns out that this marriage ends up being a sham and that one of them ends up being a shit person, or both of them are shit people, sure, we can all ridicule them then. But if they're happy together, who the fuck cares what color the husband and wife are? Who the fuck cares if you have a problem with interracial dating anyway, an interracial marriage? And I talked to a friend of mine who I'm not going to mention on here, but he talked to me privately. Well, I mean, it was on Twitter, but it was on social media. And he talked to me about how there was a discussion that he'd had where somebody that he was talking to didn't understand the whole point of interracial dating. And that stuff angers me because it makes me flash back to how I was. If somebody's happy, if it's a white person happy with a black person happy with a Latino, or anybody from Mexico, Central America, South America, it doesn't matter where they're from. It doesn't matter what people of what races come together. If they're happy, who cares? If they're straight, who cares? If it's two women, who cares? If it's two men, who cares? I don't fucking understand this goddamn mindset. If you have a problem with people being in any kind of relationship like that, whether it's interracial, gay, straight, lesbian, whatever, you have a problem with trans people dating, I just don't get it. I do not fucking get it with everybody that still has an issue with it in this day and age. Get your heads out of books, get your heads out of the sand, and get educated. Because that's the bottom line. We have to get educated on this shit. I do not understand this at all. I really don't. So I would love to talk to people, whether it's in the comments, Whether it's on Twitter, if you want to DM me, and for any reason I don't follow you, and you want to be civil, I will follow you. If I decide to follow you and you decide to be a complete, jackass, sorry, you're going to be blocked. I just can't deal with that shit anymore. If we can't be cool and educated and learn from our mistakes as human beings, then we're doomed. We gotta be better. These 3 topics I talked about are proof that society needs to be better. So anyway, that's what I guess I'm going to save the wrestling related stuff for my SmackDown review, so tune into that tonight. But anyway, that's what I got to say. You agree, disagree with what I said on these topics? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. Spend real honesty with John Ritlin. Rapid Fire episode 61, and I will see you soon.